left off in our last video on the Sarnia side of the tunnel, and right here at this arch, the train passed through the arch on the way to the tunnel, and then entered the tunnel, and we have this video clip here of this train ride through the tunnel. Not this particular train ride, but one that was done a little bit later. But you get a pretty good idea of what it was like to go through the tunnel at that time. Here you can see the train approaching the tunnel with another train coming the other way. This train had already been through the tunnel and is coming towards Sarnia. Looks like there might be some soldiers on there, or else the soldiers are on this train and they are waving to them. Also notice the two tracks and how the switch is right here. It goes down to one track. The same on the American side. There was always one track for the train to be waiting for the other train to pass. That one was pretty close, if you ask me. Here we're inside the tunnel. You can't get a real good look at it, but you get some of the rib effect from the tunnel, from those segments, those iron cast segments. And here we're coming out of the tunnel, past the pump house. And there's that other side I was talking about, and there is a train waiting to go into the tunnel. You can see it here. And we'll see some fellas here on the back waving here in a second. There they are. We're heading toward the tunnel station in Port Huron now. We're switching over here to the inside track. And here's the Grand Trunk tunnel station coming up on our right. And we have another train going east. Pretty busy place. You can see the folks on the platform there waiting. On September 19th, 1891, as the inaugural train came through the tunnel heading into Port Huron, they passed through this other triumphant arch similar to the one that they had in Sarnia. And you can see the folks waiting here, trying to keep out of the sun with their umbrellas over their head. In this next picture I'm going to show you, I thought it was the same picture you're looking at now, but in this picture here you can see a man getting off the train. And in this next picture it looks like there's a woman that wants to get on the train. It's a very similar picture, but I'm going to put it on for you to look at as well. I think this arch may have been away from the Port Huron station on a siding. You can see a train on that side, and you can see cars on the other side in another photograph. But I believe that the people were lined up all along the tracks of the train coming in from the tunnel, as well as above the tunnel. And I couldn't find a picture of it until I looked at this collage closely. And as we zoom in here, you can see all the people that are standing over the tunnel and all along the sides of the track. So it's quite a crowd. Here's a photograph of just the locomotive by the arch. And it made me wonder, every picture we've looked at so far, including this one, has been the standard engine, not the tunnel engines, the heavy-duty ones. So I'm led to believe that they felt that these engines could actually make it through the tunnel pulling only 4 cars. They didn't need the heavy-duty one. But I did find this picture here of one of the heavy-duty tunnel engines decked out. So if it was just guzzied up for the celebration of the tunnel opening, or if it was from some other event, we really don't know. The first freight train passed through the tunnel on the 24th of October, 1891. And the first passenger train on the 7th of December, 1891. The Grand Trunk then stopped the ferry service. The tunnel immediately saved the Grand Trunk 2 hours on the Chicago to Toronto route, and $50,000 per year spent operating the ferries. Once the tunnel was open, it brought national recognition to Port Huron and Sarnia. During the 1800s, Port Huron was given the infamous title of Matchstick City because of all the fires that took place in downtown Port Huron. But now, with this new national recognition, they had the title of Tunnel City. And pretty soon businesses started to pop up around Port Huron. Tunnel City Boiler Works, Tunnel City Regalia Company, Tunnel Restaurant, Tunnel City Studios, Tunnel Lumber. Everyone wanted to have the word tunnel in their company name. And of course there'd be money to be made off of souvenirs of Tunnel City, such as this plate with a tunnel hand painted on the plate, and down below you can see St. Clair Tunnel, Port Huron, Michigan. And one of the souvenir spoons here, the one on the right, is one of the souvenirs from the tunnel. And you can see the tunnel etched into the spoon and the words Port Huron above it. I mentioned Tunnel Regalia Company. This was a company that made pins and different items for different social groups in Port Huron, and I have an example of their work right here. This is the front of the pin, and they would put a picture there of anything that the customer wanted. But on the back of the pin they put their information, so everyone knows where that pin came from. Of course, the biggest selling souvenir of Tunnel City was the postcard. And there were many postcards put out of the tunnel, both on the Port Huron side and the Sarnia side. The postcards were even personalized. You can see in this picture here, which I like a lot. It's an old postcard. And you can see Mr. and Mrs. Behrman had their picture taken here at the mouth of the tunnel. There's another postcard that was taken at the mouth of the tunnel. This is just a standard postcard, but it does show a young fellow there by the opening of the tunnel. Postcards were black and white, but later on the postcard people started to color them in, so it looked a little bit more attractive to sell. One of the favors is when an engine would be coming out of the tunnel. Of course, Sarnia had their own series of postcards as well as their side of the tunnel. And here you can see the pump house. This one here is a very attractive postcard. Speaking of Sarnia, this is the supplement to the Sarnia Observer, a special edition for the tunnel. I like what it says here. The St. Clair Tunnel, one of the greatest engineering feats of the age, being the largest river tunnel in the world. The Thames Tunnel in England, that was first, but it took like 18 years to build it. And even counting our failed attempts when we first started the tunnel, ours took about 5 years. So I think we did a good job. A popular postcard was a picture of the inside of the tunnel, which was, well, quite rare because, well, it was dark. There's a few lights in there, but it was way too dark for a normal photograph. And here's an article that tells how they went about it. It was pretty unique. Photographing St. Clair Tunnel. Officials of the Grand Trunk Railway had recently succeeded in obtaining a flashlight photograph of the interior of the Sarnia Tunnel from portal to portal. Numerous photographers from different parts of America have repeatedly tried to take one, but hitherto without success. In the recent instance, some half-dozen experiments had to be made before the view was obtained. A set of large flashlight lamps were made in New York for the purpose, and a car arranged with the taking machine, and flashlight apparatus was brought into requisition, from which the experiments were made. In the history of moving pictures, this was the first attempt to obtain a flashlight picture of a tunnel through which an engine and car were flying at the rate of 30 miles an hour. The experiment was only by way of trial for the first few trips, to see what could be done, and results demonstrated the possibility of perfect pictures on a complete scale, such as is required for the biograph. The gondola car on which the working machines were placed was fitted up with a specially arranged outfit. A small house was built on the right. In front of the car, in which were arranged the 4 powerful flashlight machines, the machines were connected, thrown for a distance of more than 1,000 feet, illuminating the tunnel to the smallest detail, producing the desired effect for a sharp and good negative. The experiments were novel and exciting, as can be imagined. The engine running like a huge bullet through what practically looked like an immense gun barrel, illuminating with a light that could not be faced, and which necessitated the operators and those who took part in the experiments wearing blue glasses and rushing through this hollow tube at a 30-mile-an-hour pace. The mutograph, or machine used by the Biograph Company, for taking the pictures was placed on the left of the flashlight cabin. The electric motor used for running the machine being connected with 4 storage batteries that were carried on the car. You can also see they're using one of the powerful tunnel engines. You can see also on the black and white postcards inside the tunnel, they even colorized those. The postcards were really big, the postcard companies, for trying to make the cards more attractive, and it's pretty hard to be attractive inside a tunnel, so let's give a little color to it. I imagine if they would have looked closely as they were going through the tunnel, they may have seen this plaque that represents the international boundary line between Canada and the United States. Once the Grand Trunk trains were running back and forth through the tunnel on a regular basis, Grand Trunk did a little advertising, as you can see from this poster here. Round-trip tickets at single first-class fare, dated April 1892. It was in January of that same year that first fatal accident occurred in the tunnel, only 3 months after the tunnel opened to regular freight traffic. In our next video, we'll look at the circumstances that caused men to die in the tunnel, and we'll look at the men who rescued the living. So join me then.